How do you make the stories you tell, the characters that you represent in something like A Little Women's Christmas, or even thinking about When Calls the Heart that you've been hugely, successful with? How do you make it authentic and sincere and not something that feels cheesy or sort of ignorant, I suppose?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think there has to be a balance between realism and idealism. And some people will look at a show like When Calls the Heart and say, well, boy, those people sure look nice and their hair looks good all the time and they're dressed beautifully. If we could go back and recreate the real world of 1920, people were kind of grubby. And, so we choose to maybe put a little bit more idealism in the mix than realism, but we want to tell stories that are real here, right? And be authentic to the human experience. So our characters, we've had death on When Calls the Heart. It's caused quite an apocalypse for some of our Hardies, our fan base. The Hardy apocalypse is what we call that. And we don't do that very often, but we've had little Jack, develop juvenile diabetes in 1920s. That was a life and death situation in the 1920s. And it caused really some, for some folks, it's like, whoa, that's not the escapism that we're looking for here. Well, we think we need to do both, right? We think we need to tell stories that are relevant to people now, right? In a contemporary setting, that, or at least have themes of human struggle that are relevant to what we all go through in a contemporary setting. So, the way we say it is that we want to give them what they want, but also what they need. And we kind of feel like sometimes we need a dose of that reality so that the way our characters recover from it is something that people can learn from. When Mountie Jack died in season 5 of When Calls the Heart, it truly caused an apocalypse on our fan base. But it was some of the best episodes we ever did. And it was some of the most compelling and gripping, TV we ever did. And we need to do both. We need to give them laughs. We need to give them cries. We need to give them stories where they can say, you know what, I've been struggling over here in this area. They just handle that in a different way than I have. Maybe I could take a lesson from that. TV characters, film characters are role models in one way or another. And they come from the writers and the producers who make them up for people, or who are telling true stories and amplifying those true stories in storytelling for depicting on film, in the cinemas or on TV sets. But if we give people an idea of how they could get through their own life and get through their own challenges in a better way, how is that a bad thing?
Yeah,
I just don't see that. I think we can give them really bad role models too. And there are plenty of the people doing that. Like, there are plenty of bad role models, in our movies and our TV shows. So I just prefer, not to give perfect, we don't want to depict perfect people, but we want it at the end of the day to know that even people that make mistakes can end up doing the right thing.